irritating me, well, more actually, it's my age. But this cult of celebrity, where if you aren't somebody, you're nobody. And the things that people will do for their 15 minutes of fame, they'll go on, Jeremy, can I offer a start? And embarrassing bodies, things they won't show their doctor, they'll show the nation, so they can be famous for 5 minutes. Another thing is people being humbled when they get a prize. No, they're not, they're honoured. They were humble before and now they're not. Oh, I could go on. I hate all the programmes that we get where people are beaten. Or, I don't mean hit with a stick, I mean, they're knocked out because they're not good enough. And I find now I can't watch them, I can't bear other people's disappointment. So I love Pointless, and I don't mind when they go off in twos, but at the end I don't want to know whether they win or not, because I don't want them to be upset. So we've got this, you know, if you're not somebody, you're nobody. And yet, there were no nobodies for Jesus. And there are no nobodies for Jesus. You can say this with me, we'll all say it in different versions, but it doesn't matter. John 3:16. God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whosoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. I love that, whosoever. It's usually translated whoever now, but it's got an extra bit in it for me when it says whosoever. That's absolutely everybody, isn't it? Anybody, everybody who believes. He, who was everybody, became a nobody for us, because he wants us so much in his kingdom. The King of Kings and the Lord of Lords began his life in a stable, amongst the filth and the smell of animals. He came from a town of low reputation that people called Mucky Nazareth. Can anything good come out of Nazareth? Oh yes, it can. He had no GCSEs, he had no degree, he had a Galilean accent. He who is everybody became as nobody as you can get. He humbled himself, and that's the proper meaning of the word. He wanted to show his commitment to the lowest of the low, and that's why he was born in a barn and visited by shepherds nobody else wanted to talk to. They never got up to the temple because they were never clean enough. They were the first to be in the presence of the King of Kings on the planet. And then Gentiles, wise men, outcasts, not Jews, not proper. And that was so that we can know that we are included in whosoever. And everybody you meet is included in that whosoever. He was an absolute nobody to prove that you are somebody. Loved, treasured, important. This message started with an earworm. I didn't know what an earworm was till I had one. It's when a song gets in your head and won't go away and you keep singing it to yourself or saying it to yourself. And I've not sung this song for centuries. Only the very oldest here will know it, so make sure you mix with it. There's a wideness in God's mercy, like the wideness of the sea. There's a kindness in his justice that's more than liberty. There is no place where earth's sorrows are more felt than up in heaven. There's no place where earth's failings have such kindly judgment given. And this is what struck me most. This is where it started. Yet we make his love too narrow, with false limits of our own, and we magnify his strictness with a zeal he will not own. For the love of God is broader than the measures of our mind, and the heart of the eternal is most wonderfully kind. God loves us because of who he is, not because of anything that you did or didn't do. And that feeling of being a nobody and being rejected begins very early in life. I was crossing the playground one day and there was a kid sitting on the wall. His class were playing football on the field. I said, "What are you doing there, Craig?" And he says, "I didn't get picked again." Perhaps you were somebody who didn't get picked. I had 2 left feet and a squint. I never got picked. There are lots of other ways of picking teeth, but those sort of things that happen to all of us, pretty much all of us when we're little, and again and again and again, are the things we retain. And we forget how important we are because we are created in God's image. So we're going to look at Jesus and how he mixed with people and the people he mixed with. Familiar stories, but I think so often we look at one line of one story and we don't see the bigger picture. He fulfilled prophecy in Isaiah that said, "A bruised reed he will not break, and a smouldering wick he will not snuff out." What would happen if some of the people that Jesus mixed with and talked with and loved came to our churches today? I think they might do all right at this church, but there are other churches where it wouldn't work. So we're going to begin with Mark chapter 3 and verse 16 and look at the 12 people, 12 men that Jesus chose to be his apprentices, his right-hand man. These are the 12 he appointed. Simon, to whom he gave the name Peter. James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John. To them he gave the name Boanerges, which means sons of thunder. Andrew, Philip, Bartholomew, Matthew, Thomas, James, son of Alphaeus, Thaddeus, Simon the Zealot, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. Just a list of names. Some of them you would have been able to remember, others not. 4 of them never said or did anything that anybody thought worth writing down, except we know that they died for their faith. The zealot could easily be translated terrorist. Simon the terrorist, he was in there. And there's Andrew. I always feel sorry for Andrew. Andrew was the first person to follow Jesus. He was listening to John the Baptist, and he was there with John, just the 2 of them, and John pointed them to Jesus, and they followed him. And yet he's always low down on the list. He was right down there in verse 18 when we started in verse 16. And whenever he's mentioned, it says, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother. Second fiddle, but important to God. There's Matthew, the tax collector. Tax collectors were considered to be so dishonest that they couldn't give witness in court. And you'll remember well the story of Zacchaeus, another tax collector, and how Jesus showed him that he was special, even though nobody else thought so, and people spat at him day after day. But then when we look at the Jewish education system in those days, we discover that they would all be amazed to have been called at all. And other people would look at them and think, what's he doing with that motley crew? They were never clever at school. Perhaps you weren't. And if you're like me, God's called you to tasks that you thought you couldn't do. And then you found out you could when you finally trusted him. I was on the lay witness weekend leading it, and the Sunday morning service brought the whole thing together, a terribly important service. And you were inviting people to recommit or to commit themselves to Jesus. But this was going to be a parade service. Nearly 50 kids who'd not been on the weekend at all. And I sat on the bed that morning, rocking backwards and forwards, saying, I can't do this, Lord, I can't do this. And he said quite clearly, I know you can't, but I can. And he did. Some of those kids came forward to give their lives to Jesus. But now we're going to look at these lads. Their education system went like this. Same as ours to start with. We started school about 4 or 5, and you went to the Bet Sefer, which is the house of the book. Probably they went to the synagogue and they sat round the feet of the rabbi. And it's possible that even girls went as well at that point. When they were 10, that was it for most of them. But the better boys went on to the Bet Talmud, which was the house of learning. There they learned the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible, and they learned to understand its teaching too. And many of them were set about the task of learning it by heart. At 12 to 13 was the next sorting, and the better boys, grammar school material if you like, went to the Bet Midrash, the house of study. And so their learning of the scriptures went on. All the rest now have gone off to learn their father's trade, to be carpenters and fishermen and the like. At 15, all young people left school, but the best of the best, the real cream of the crop, would look to apprentice themselves to a rabbi. Their father would have been watching the rabbis, listening to the rabbis, deciding which one was a good one to encourage his son to join. And as he left school, he would approach that rabbi and say, may I be one of your followers? Learn your yoke, your way of teaching. And the rabbi would ask them lots of questions and then send them away to come back 2 weeks later for the answer. Never, ever did a rabbi approach a young man and say, will you be my disciple? Never, ever did a rabbi approach a crowd of fishermen and tax collectors and other rejects. And now you understand why Jesus said, you did not choose me, I chose you. He chose the nobodies of this world to be his somebodies. Listen carefully then. If you feel left out or rejected, or that you have nothing to offer, if you wonder if you do enough for him to take any notice of you, if you believe you can't do what you know he's asking of you. In Mark chapter 10, there's a series of 4 stories about nobodies. It begins with children. Our children are very important, but in those days children were far less important. And you'll remember the story of how Jesus calls the children and blesses them. Then comes the rich young ruler who wants to join, but he can't because he can't give up his money. And then the question is asked, who is most important in the kingdom? And Jesus says, a little child. And it's also familiar. Our 21st century ears hardly hear it. We miss the significance. When I was 6, I found out I could read the Bible. And I was so excited. The story that I could read was this one we're going to look at now, in Mark chapter 10 and verse 46. And I could say it for you in authorised version if I wanted. And they came to Jericho, and as they went out of Jericho, the disciples, a great number of people, I read it and read it and read it. But this is what it says. As Jesus and his disciples, together with a large crowd, were leaving Jericho, a blind man, Bartimaeus, which means son of Timaeus, was sitting by the roadside begging. When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Many rebuked him and told him to be quiet. But he shouted all the more, Son of David, have mercy on me. Jesus stopped. Call him. So they called the blind man. Cheer up, on your feet, he's calling you. Throwing his cloak aside, he jumped to his feet and came to Jesus. Ordinary story, you first heard it probably before you were 6, and heard it again lots of times after that. The assumption was, though, that if someone was afflicted with something like blindness, they must have sinned. They deserved what they got. They were at the bottom of the heap. Here is a blind beggar. He hasn't even got a proper name. He's just called old Timaeus' lad. No reputation. No good deeds. Not jumped through any hoops. Not chanted off any Billy Graham confession. But Jesus says, come. An absolute nobody in human terms. But faith that Jesus could heal him made him a somebody. There are leprosy sufferers. Total outcasts without any hope. The Ebola crisis has given us some sort of image of what it was like to be so, to make other people so afraid because you've got this dreadful disease. Jesus spoke with them, healed them. But at least they were men. Then there were women. For goodness sake, such nobleness. It was women. They could be divorced at the drop of a hat. Well, actually, at the throw of a shoe. If she didn't do the suit right that day, she'd throw her shoes out of the tent, finished, divorced. They were not allowed to express an opinion or to have one. And there were a group of Pharisees called the bruised and bleeding Pharisees because they wouldn't look at a woman in the street, and so they banged into things. And I'm glad they were bruised and bleeding. Serves themselves right to say where that come from. They were nobodies. But Jairus' daughter was only 12. Had she been a boy, it would have been her vomit somewhere. But she's a girl. But Jesus stops what he's doing and goes to her straight away. There's Mary of Bethany. Read about Mary of Bethany carefully. I think she had Down syndrome. She was so loving, and it's a power of love that only people with Down seem to be able to offer to anybody. It explains why Martha was so angry that she was sitting at Jesus' feet in the position for being taught, and she wasn't helping with the cooking. It was she who washed Jesus' feet and dried it with her hair. And Jesus taught her. She sat at his feet and he taught her. She was important to him. There was the woman who touched the hem of his garment. She dared face him face to face. She just touched the hem of his garment and she was healed. Unless you should think that you are worse, Jesus did the unthinkable. He talked with a woman, a Samaritan woman. A Samaritan woman with a dodgy reputation. A Samaritan woman everybody else called a slut. Nobody could think of anyone more lonely. Only a somebody in that she was someone to talk about and make jokes about and revile. Jesus knew all about her, and yet he invited her to help him, which amazed her. And she tried to tell him it was against the rules, but he did it anyway. And he taught her. And then what did he do? He sent her off as the first evangelist, the first preacher to the Gentiles. Not quite Gentiles, Samaritans, they're not quite Gentiles, but not so bad. The thief on the cross. Could anybody be more of a nobody than that? And all he said to Jesus, well, he told the other thief off first of all, but he said to Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And Jesus said, today you will be with me in paradise. That thief, that nobody, that crucified criminal, was the first person to enter heaven by the blood of the Saviour. Nobody is a nobody. Everybody is a somebody. And it wasn't only then, it's now as well. There's a story of a lady who made a patchwork quilt using lots of gaudy colours, and she gave it to the church for the sale of work. And as soon as they looked at it, they thought, nobody's going to want that. And they hung it at the back of the store. And nobody did want it. So it was packed away. And one day someone was clearing out the church cupboards when they found this quilt. So there was a missionary visiting, and he said, let me take it. I think I have a use for it. And he took it back to Africa and he hung it over the balcony of his home. And the chief, from whom he had been trying to buy a patch of land for a church, came past, saw the quilt, and asked to buy it. And he said, it's not for sale, but I'll swap it you for that piece of land. And that's how they got a church in that village. There was a Russian translator in the days when it was communist Russia. A little old lady in a top floor flat, completely paralysed except for one hand. And with that one hand, she was translating the Bible so that the local people could read it. And she said, nobody suspects me, but Jesus can use me. There was a lady who used to travel every day on the underground. And one day, the ticket collector said, oh, I really want to thank you. And she said, what for? She knew she'd never even seen him before. And he said, every day you came through here with a smile on your face. And I wondered what you had that other people didn't have. And then one day, you had a Bible in your hand, so I got one. And I found Jesus. And there's allegedly a tramp who walks around the area called King's Cross in Australia. I don't even know which city it's in. And he goes up to the people around and he puts his hand on their shoulder and he says, if you were to die today, where would you spend eternity? That's all he says, and then he walks on. And one man that he did that, he came back to the UK, and that question so plagued his mind that he became Christian. And he was telling his story one day, and somebody said, hey, that's my story as well. The same thing had happened to both of them. And so when they had occasion to go back to Australia on business, they decided to find this tramp. And so they wandered around in King's Cross, and sure enough, a hand came on the shoulder. And the same message, if you were to die today, where would you spend eternity? And they told him that because of that message, they'd found Jesus. And he cried. He said, I've been doing that for 20 years, and I never knew if it did any good. An absolute nobody, but someone special in God's kingdom. Nobody is a nobody. Everybody is a loved and valued child with a special thing to do for the kingdom. Someone to listen to and enjoy their company. Jesus never turned anyone away. The rich young ruler turned himself away. Don't count him. Some of you, who are nearly as old as me, will remember Malcolm Muggeridge. He was a broadcaster, mainly on the radio, and he wrote this. And this, for me, sorts out the celebrities from the non-celebrities. I may, I suppose, he writes, regard myself, or pass for being, a relatively successful man. People occasionally stare at me in the street. That's fame. I can fairly easily earn enough to qualify for admission to the higher slopes of the Inland Revenue. That's success. Furnished with money and a little fame, even the elderly, if they care to, may partake of trendy diversions. That's pleasure. I might happen once in a while that it might happen that once in a while something I've said or wrote was sufficiently heeded for me to persuade myself that it represented a serious impact on our time. That's fulfillment. Yet I say to you, and I beg you to believe me, multiply these tiny triumphs by 1,000,000. Add them all together, and they are nothing, less than nothing. A positive impediment measured against one draught of that living water Christ offers to the spiritually thirsty, irrespective of who or what they are. Christ ever makes it available to us. Let's drink and live. Time's pushing on, isn't it? Shall we go to now? I've lost him altogether. Oh, there he is. Okay. Christianity is totally different from the other religions which say, do this, do this, do this, and save yourself. Christianity says, look at God saving you because you're rotten, and he loves you anyway. Some historians come to Jesus with Muhammad or Moses or Confucius and other spiritual leaders, but Jesus says, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father but by me. He could have scored more points in political correctness had he said, I know the way, I show the way. But he speaks not of what he does, but of who he is. I am the way. It will have to miss the very fun Kendrick on Christmas. He loves us with a love beyond human comprehension. And he calls us to imitate him. Shutting people out, giving reasons why they don't fit, seems to make humankind feel better about themselves. And we exclude people for all sorts of reasons. It was revealed recently that Justin Welby was illegitimate. Shock, horror, how dare he be the Archbishop when he was illegitimate. I loved his reply. He says, people will view me for who I am and what I do, not my genetic makeup. I am a child of Jesus Christ. And then in the last couple of days, the Bishop of Grantham, who is gay, has been in the news and in the paper, although everybody who mattered knew that in the first place. We love to shut people out. What a difference it can make remembering, especially when people put us down, that we are the children of God, sons and daughters of the King of Kings. One of my colleagues who had infant children, whenever they lined up, she said, line up like the Queen's children. And they would line up like the Queen's children. We line up like the King's children. Being loved by God doesn't depend on us at all. He loves us because he loves us. It's nothing to do with what we do or don't do, what we say or don't say, what hoops we jump through or don't jump through. It doesn't matter what we look like or smell like. It doesn't matter what our language or our skin colour. Do we put an unconscious limit on how many piercings and tattoos people can have before they're not acceptable? There've always been these perceived blocks. And I found out about them one day when I tried to go to Talbot Street. I don't know if you know Talbot Street Church in Nottingham. It's a born-again Pentecostal type church. And I've been there on a couple of occasions. And I intended to go and I knew the cobwebs blown away. So I got on the bus and off I went. And partway there, I looked down and thought, oh, I'm wearing trousers. What if they don't like women wearing trousers? And then I thought, don't stupid. You wear trousers in all sorts of churches now. And then, bizarrely, I thought, oh, I'm not wearing a hat. Pentecostals wear hats. I dismissed that one as being ridiculous. As the bus came down Talbot Street, I could see two men standing on the door. And I thought, I'm not going in. It looked a real narrow space between them, and then I had to speak to them. I didn't want to be spoken to. I thought, I'll go straight up to Cannon Circus and get us back home. Again, I told myself not to be ridiculous and went in. I wondered where to sit. Worried for a bit I might be sitting in the wrong place. Decided that didn't matter either. And then, bizarrely, I thought, hope nobody speaks to me. And after about 5 minutes, thought, nobody's speaking to me. And I think that whole performance was to show me what it's like if you've never been to church and you want to go. You're filled with horrors about how you have to behave, what you have to wear, what you have to do, how good you have to be. They think that we gather together because we know we're saints. They don't understand that we gather together because we know we're sinners in need of a saviour. It's a funny old world, isn't it? We like to put people off. Let me just remind you about the prodigal son. He could not have been worse, really, could he? He spent it, first of all, he virtually said to his dad, I wish you were dead. Then he went off and spent all the money. Well, his brother thought he spent it on prostitutes. We don't know what he spent it on except for parties. And we know he ran out. And then he got the lowest of the lowest job that a Jew could ever have. With pigs. You know how Jews feel about pigs. And he decides to go home. And he practices his Billy Graham confession that will get him, maybe get him in as a servant. Just might. And then Jesus draws for us this wonderful picture of our welcome, whoever we are, however much of a nobody, however far we've fallen. His Father was watching and waiting. We don't know how many months or years he's been watching and waiting, but he's watching. And he sees him coming from far off, and he runs, which is so undignified, no proper Jew would run. But he runs because he wants to greet him. He doesn't get a chance, this lad, to say his practice confession and his apology and his begging. There's no recrimination, there's no third degree, there's no reminding him of his past and what he ought to have done. He's showered with gifts that are symbolic of his reinstatement. He gets a robe, which is a symbol of honour. He gets a ring, which is a symbol of authority and power of attorney. He gets shoes to prove he's a son and not a servant or a slave. And a party is thrown. If only hungry people knew their love that much, and God is waiting so much to welcome them into the kingdom. No matter how many times you blow it, he will gently reinstate you, if that's what you truly want. The elder brother, oh, have a read of him. That was aimed at the Pharisees, but it could equally be aimed at the church. He was resentful. He didn't give a welcome. It was so opposite to Father's welcome. And he made up awful things. It was him who made up the prostitutes. And the father said, this son of yours. And the father said, this brother of yours. Read it in different. Because I want to finish with my favourite story of all. Simon Johnson. Simon Bar Jones. He'd been appointed the leader. And he was proud of that. He was Peter, the rock on whom Jesus was going to build his kingdom. And then, despite all his boasting, he denied Jesus 3 times. And he was so ashamed. There was no way he could come back from that position of having let Jesus down so badly. And only Jesus could have thought of the way to do it. And it happened on a beach in Galilee, the very beach from which he'd been called to be a disciple. He was out fishing, and he comes in, And not only is it the same beach where he was called, and where he decided to follow Jesus to the death, but also there's a fire burning. And it was a fire that he denied Jesus 3 times. And Jesus broke bread. And he remembered again that he wasn't worthy. And then Jesus called him on one side. And he says, Simon Johnson, do you love me? And I think Simon can't meet his eyes. He's looking down and he says, yes, Lord, you know I love you. And he's told to feed the sheep. And then Jesus says the exact same words again. Simon Johnson, do you love me? Yes, Lord, you know I love you. 3rd time, the hot-tempered Simon Johnson gets cross. And he looks up and he says, yes, Lord, you know I love you. And then he sees the love, the forgiveness in Jesus' eyes. And he knows he is reinstated. And as they say, you couldn't make it up. Only Jesus could have thought of that. And Peter is Peter again. You too. You can come back anytime, no matter how much you've blown it. You can give in anytime for that thing he's been telling you to do, and do it. I'm stood here. I was the shyest creature on the planet. And I knew at the age of 20 that I was called to preach. And I knew I couldn't do it. So every time he suggested it, I said, no, you know, I can't do it. And that went on for 30 years. And through those 30 years, he gradually gave me more and more jobs to do that involved talking to people. First only to children, and later to others too. And then on the way this weekend, I'm looking for a verse to put in the book that I bought for my hostess. And I opened it, and it's opened in Timothy, and it said, be prepared to preach, in season or out of season. I slammed it shut, and I thought, I told you I can't. And I opened it again, and it opened in Romans, and it says, how will they hear if nobody preaches to them? And I shut it again. And I said, I've told you I can't. I'm going in the Old Testament, where you have to leave me alone. And I opened it in the Old Testament. How beautiful on the mountains are the feet of those who bring good news. And I gave in. I went forward when the appeal was made at the end of the weekend and said I would do it. And I went straight back and got myself an appointment at Wilbur Baptist. And there was a lovely fellow there, Ernie. And he said, is there anything you'd like me to pray for? Nobody's ever asked me that in the vestry since, just that one time. And I said, yes, please. My knees are knocking, we're going to be able to hear them knocking. I can't stop shaking. Will you ask my nerves to go away? And he prayed a very simple prayer for my nerves to go away. And they didn't. And I turned down to go into the church, and as I stepped over the threshold into obedience, they went away and never came back. We believe he loves everyone. We fail to demonstrate that love adequately. We believe there's a wideness in God's mercy like the wideness of the sea. There's a kindness in his justice which is more than liberty. We believe the love of God is broader than the measure of our minds, and the heart of the eternal is most wonderfully kind. Remind yourself of it hour by hour. It's good news. You are somebody worth dying for, and so is that person that you meet. Learn it, believe it, experience it, trust it, show it, and share it. Off you go.
Thank you so much, Pat. I think there's a challenge in there for every single one of us must have been, whether it's, you've been rejected in life and don't feel good enough, whether the boot's on the other foot maybe, and sometimes we're a bit judgmental and we don't see the potential in others that God sees. There's a challenge in there for all of us, and thank you so much for bringing that to us. And the other one thing was the question that Pat asked from the Trump about, if you die today, do you know where you're going to spend eternity? If there is anyone here that is not sure about their answer to that question, then please do come and see one of us afterwards, either myself, Pat, or any of the leadership team. Shall we stand, say the grace together? May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, and the love of God, and the fellowship